Hey, good evening, everyone. This is Tony Casper, Safe Passage Consulting, here for a little safety chat with you tonight. I got my team here tonight with me.
Hey everybody, it's Dustin Randall here, Safe Passage. Going to have a little chat tonight. We're going to keep it short. Just some topics that we've been kicking around with some folks outside, and some things that we think are important to talk about in our society today.
And I'm Larry Nelson, in case you forgot. And the topics we're going to go over tonight specifically, this is the highest on the list of things that we received, was two things. We talked about situational awareness and how do we keep our families safe? How do we stay safe when we're out in public? And then the other one was, how do we talk to our kids? How do we talk to our kids about this stuff? Because this is a scary topic, and we know that it's a hard thing to go about doing it. But as we like to say, if the firemen can figure it out, we can figure this out, right? So we try to get a little help from people. So let's start off with talking to kids, just right away, because that was a big one. I know I got a lot of requests from different members of the Moms Club groups and some other things, and it's like, hey, what do you do and how do you do this? So Tony, I mean, we both we all have kids first and foremost. I'm gonna put that out there. Tony and I actually both have twins, so that's a whole other element. So
There's something in the water.
there must be, right? Like when you think about this, and the kids are coming up because they're how old now? What?
They're 3 years old.
They're 3.
They just turned 3 in June, and it's definitely one of the things that it's probably the most asked question that we get after a presentation. Everybody goes, "This is great information, but how do I talk about this with someone younger?" And I was like, well, it depends on the age. But we know we start talking to kids with fire drills and stuff like that very, very young. In their kindergarten, preschool, they're already talking about these things. So what I tell everybody else is just, you got to know your audience. And with teachers, they know their kids well, so they have a great way of doing these things. But when they ask for advice from us, what I always tell them is, look, it doesn't have to be killers coming into the building and shooting everybody. Then what do you do? You don't have to say that. But what you can say are things like, okay, if a bad person comes in here and we need to get ourselves out, where do we go? You're going to have to lead them a little bit through this conversation because they've never been here before. When I say lead them, say the things like, bad person comes in, we need to get out. You don't just say, what do you do? Because it's not a quiz. You're trying to help guide them through an emergency situation and give them a plan so when in this situation, they have something to draw upon. That's what we're looking for.
And Tony, I think that's an important point to make is have a plan with your kids before something happens. So we don't want to get caught off guard, and that's what we've seen in a lot of these active shooter and aggressor situations is folks are caught off guard and they've never thought about this before. They didn't think about what they would do, and that's when we see that hide tactic come into play, or they get under a desk, or they hide in the closet. Well, think about that with kids. If we haven't told our children what to do, my daughter's 12 and we've been talking about this since she could form words, because it's important. If we're out in public, which we're gonna be, this is what I want you to do. And this is what I have to do as a police officer, that's one thing, but this is what I want you to do. This is how we're gonna find each other afterwards, and this is how you keep yourself safe. As soon as kids can walk, guess what? They can run, they learn how to run, and this is not a complicated thing to go over with.
So metaphorically speaking is where you're going with here is, we teach them the basics first and then we pick up the pace. So how about this? Look at fire and the way they do things. Okay, first of all, they make it fun. Now, how do you make an active aggressor event fun? Well, think about what they do with fire. They have the houses. They had them go through it. They practice the stop, drop, and roll. They keep a very friendly and open environment, and they encourage them to do activities that have to do with getting away from fire.
Exactly.
But the kids have no idea that that's what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
So like little obstacle courses and stuff like that they do, and going through the houses and things and getting that information, right? That's a great way to go about starting this.
And we can all remember those fire drills when we were little kids in school, and you go out, the bell rings, and it's a surprise for you. Maybe the faculty knew, but you didn't.
Yeah.
And you go outside and you get to see all your friends. But what are you really training kids to do in that? To get away from fire. Stop, drop, and roll. We talked about that last week. That's a pretty scary thing to talk about.
Yeah.
I'm on fire, and this is how I put myself out. So we can talk to children about these things. We talk to them about gang awareness, drugs, with sex, all these things that we talk
Safe
about.
weapons handling too. If you see firearms day, that's another thing that they go into, which we're not talking about tonight, but it's one of the things that they broach, right? So again, it's plain speak, practice, got to have practice, giving kids jobs, and knowing your audience, like Tony said, because kids are a lot more resilient than we think sometimes, and we keep it in plain speak. Give them opportunities to show what they really can and can't do, because you know your kids better than anybody else does. Now it's it's up to you to find out which way to communicate to them best.
Yeah.
And Larry, I want to touch on the plain speak thing really quick, because a lot of entities out there, school districts, businesses, whoever we may be talking about, they may want to institute a code
Oh, that's
program.
right,
So
codes.
code red is this, code blue is this, and that is great for a trained staff, but what about the new person that just started today? Or a substitute teacher, somebody that might might not know that code. There's nothing wrong with just going back to plain speak. Hey, there is a threat in the building. We need to get out.
And one of the points I bring up with that, to add on to that, is when you hear somebody announce a code in a building, what happens to us as law enforcement officials and our capacities, if we working in those, if we don't know what's going on, then we can't respond and help the situation. So I think it's one of those things that you need to think about. So,
Good, that's good. So look, if you have any more questions or concerns, please hit us up after the program tonight. You can send it to our Facebook page, and you can also reach out to us at our different emails, which we'll give to you here later on.
Yeah.
Okay.
The key to protecting ourselves and our families when we're out in public is being situationally aware at all times. So we see everybody in our society today, in our day and age, everybody's head down on that phone, checking those emails that are mostly 95% spam anyway. That somebody trying to buy something from you. It's not that important, folks. There's a big push about not texting and driving. Well, guess what? If we're looking at our phone, looking at our computer, you pay attention to other things that are going on, we might not see those precursor signs that we teach folks about. So if there's something going on around us, we might miss that if we're not really paying attention. So if we're out in public, take a few seconds to look around you, figure out what's going on, and then go about enjoying your
So
life.
that was the second question that came up that people were talking about. It's like, hey, how do we prepare ourselves to go out and do our everyday things and maintain some form of situational awareness when we're out doing stuff? So my wife is good enough to share with her sisters, like, hey, if you're at the grocery store, remember this, that sign that says employees only, blast right through that thing into the back and the loading docks, and there's
You're allowed
exits. Yeah, you're allowed to go, right? You're allowed in this circumstance to do this. You can get out that way. And she was
hold on
like,
one second. Let me
"Yeah,
bless it.
Papa."
You are officially allowed to do
Yes,
this.
absolutely.
Go ahead.
So it's like people don't realize that, and so what is situational awareness? So without giving you the actual quote unquote like Webster's dictionary version, let's hit on that. What are things you can do to be more situational aware, Tony?
I think Dustin hit a really good one already with the keep your head out of your phone, be in the moment, live when you're out with your family in public settings, especially. Just keep that phone out of your hand. Don't be distracted. He kind of really dove into that already, but that distraction is one of the things that's going to keep you from being aware. So I would say that is number one. For sure.
Absolutely. How about mental scripting? Talk about that, because for us, particularly who worked on the street a really long time, and Dustin's still doing it right now with the stuff that he does. Tell me you don't, and you know you do every time. Every time you roll up on something when you're working, what are you doing in your head? What are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, in our profession, it's easy. You get a call and you're heading to that, however long it takes you, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. You're thinking about, when I get here, if this happens, I'll do this. If this happens, I'll do this. So you're playing through scenarios in your mind. If we're not doing that as a society together, I'm not saying that we all have to live in paranoia, that we can't go out and enjoy a festival or a night out eating
But it's still
dinner
more
at a
paranoid
restaurant.
than when you drive the car.
Exactly,
I mean, you're
yeah.
driving the car, you're looking for people that aren't paying attention, right? So, I mean, you're not freaking out about that. Usually you got one hand out the window, you're doing one of these things, you're listening to the radio, kind of bumping along
know
while
what?
you're going, if you're Tony, so.
That's a great point.
Thanks, right?
I'm gonna give Rob, my buddy Rob, a shout out to this one because he has a
Great story.
great analogy and way he describes this. It's no different than when you're training somebody who's new to driving. They don't know what to look for. Where you, who've driven for years and years and years, you know when someone's about to cut you off. So much to the fact that you'll speed up just to not let them over any further. And by doing that, it's the experience, the knowledge that you have that's
There you
going to
go.
help protect you,
There you
along
go.
with the mentally scripting and along with paying attention to what's going on around you. It's being able to recognize those behaviors and experience doing
That
that.
experience helped you do what though? That created that what? The quote unquote, that sixth sense, that little thing that we suppress all the time because we're afraid to be wrong. But like we see something happening or we notice it right away, like you said, well the driver's getting ready to cut you off. That's a great example. Driving's a great example, right? You're like, you know it's getting ready to happen, so you start pumping the brake. But when you see an individual that's giving you that uneasy vibe, and you're not feeling it, you're like, this doesn't feel right, this doesn't look right, let's get the heck out of this situation,
Yeah.
right? That's it.
Yeah.
Right? That's all. And go with it. And like Tony said last week, don't feel bad. even if you're wrong, you just
Yeah.
at least you're safe, aren't you? Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me address a couple of these comments. I want to say shout out to Eric Brill, also a friend of ours. He,
up,
you know,
Eric?
just want to
Hey,
say
Eric.
hello. He joined us, and then also Allison. She had a question: is what are some danger or yellow red flags we should be looking for around us, and tell us what to do or to remove ourselves from that area. She has that question right on, and the red flags are someone who looks out of place. A few years ago, we had an incident at the Pride Parade where we had an individual that was wearing a trench coat on a 90-degree day during this parade,
Sweating profusely.
showing all kinds of signs. You could tell by his body language. he
Not
was-
interacting with the crowd.
Boom.
Had his hands in his pockets the whole time.
No eye contact.
Looked, according to witnesses, looked nervous. When you see somebody who looks nervous, it's real. Was looking left to right, as if to make up their mind to do something.
Yeah.
These are all indicators. These are behaviors, not characteristics. Again, we'll get into that some of the time, but these are the quote-unquote yellow and/or red flags that we're talking about right now. Person had the wherewithal to grab one of our brothers and sisters wearing a white shirt, said, "Hey, this is what's up," and they're like, "You know what? That's more than just a hunch. It is based on articulable facts, information to make it real." And the officer went over and talked to him, and next thing you know, they said, "Hey, what's under the coat?" Opened up the jacket, and you got a machete and several knives.
It reminds me of the term I was taught when I was a little boy. If it walks like one and talks like one, it probably is one.
Probably is a bad
Absolutely.
situation. Yeah, so absolutely trust that. Is there anybody else on that? What
I think that's the only question we had.
We're at our
But yeah,
time limit here.
we're also getting close to our time. We're a little over the 10-minute budget.
So let's go back to that whole thing with situational awareness. When you're out in public, when you're formulating a plan, okay, so again, be situationally aware by doing the following things. When you go into a certain business, have exit awareness, not just the way you came in, but other ways that there are to get out, all right? The next thing is mentally script. I'm in this location with my family. Shout out to my sister-in-law who has 4 kids. I don't know how you do it, okay? But with 4 kids, how do you manage them with getting through from point A to point B and being safe? So think about that. If something bad happens where I'm at, based on my proximity to the event, where it's taking place, how will I respond? Okay, that's the next one we talk about. And then finally going through is like, should we use the code words? You hit on that right away in the very beginning. The answer, no. Let's use plain speak. Clearly communicate to our family and friends what's going to do. Again, you can hand out jobs. That's part of your thing. When you have a plan and go someplace, and think about it. So if I'm at the grocery store, we run it like this because we have a regular grocery store to go to. If we go to the movie theater, we have a way that we deal with that. If we go to a concert or anything of that nature, right? And what does it become when we mentally practice it? We mentally practice this, then we physically practice it. It becomes what did you just say?
A routine.
Like putting on your what? Seatbelt. Oh, pants. I was gonna go seatbelt. I was looking for a little more. I guess some people like jump into it one time. I don't even know what's going on here. You threw me for a loop on that one.
Muscle
All right.
memory.
Yeah,
We've
there.
heard
All right, so he's more of a hurry than some people put his pants on. Maybe that's the problem. I don't know. So here,
One leg at a time.
One leg at a time, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So all right,
Yeah.
there it is.
So thank you for joining us tonight. If you guys have any questions, feel free to pop them in there in the comment section.
Yeah.
If you have any topic that you'd like to hear us talk about further or dive a little more in depth, just put it on there and we'll be happy to do it. We'll announce our topic for next week, probably midweek.
Same time, same
Yeah.
channel.
Sunday, 8:15. Tell a friend. Share us on the Facebook stuff. Get it out there with us. And remember, you can reach us. It's our last name, so it's Randall at SafePassageConsulting.com.
Correct.
It's Nelson at SafePassageConsulting.com. It's Casper at SafePassageConsulting.com.
Super
Or
easy.
our info line, which is
Yep, info@safepassageconsulting.com, and you can always check out the services we offer at just safepassageconsulting.com. Also, I'm gonna dangle a carrot, boys. Anybody, any golfers out there that have any good questions? The best question of the week is getting a dozen Safe Passage Consulting golf balls and a T-shirt.
Nice.
Holler at your boy.
Let's do it.
Have a good night, y'all.
All right, thank
Talk
you.
to you soon.